I can tell that this is going to be an unpopular review, but you know what? It's my channel. Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Wicked for Good, which is directed by Jon M and is the second half of the Wicked film adaptation. This movie is Act 2 of the Broadway musical. We once again follow Elphaba, played by Cynthia Erivo, as she's been marked as the Wicked Witch of the West by Madame Morrible because Elphaba dared to speak out against the Wizard of Oz. This makes things complicated for her best friend Glinda, played again by Ariana Grande, as she is trying to maintain that balance of being encouraging to the citizens of Oz while also wanting to support her friend who she knows hasn't done anything wrong. It's essentially a test of their friendship. One of them is continuously out there to fight for what's right. The other is less willing to fight but knows what's going on behind the scenes is wrong. Last year's Wicked was incredible. It was one of my favorite movies the year it came out. Number 2, in fact, and it was a movie that I didn't know would be on my best of the year list. But the more I've had time to really think about the movie, the more I've actually fallen in love with it, to the point where if Anora hadn't come out that same year, this would have been my favorite movie of 2024. And here's a fun story. A month after Part 1 came out in theaters, the Pantages Theater in Hollywood was actually showing the musical. And I was set to see that musical, but tickets were just way too expensive, and my family just wasn't feeling it during that holiday season. We just had too much going on that we didn't want to push ourselves. So, unfortunately, I had a chance to see the musical for myself, but didn't get to, which is actually good because people have cited Act 2 as being not as good as Act 1, which is good for me because I can go into Wicked for Good and judge it on its own terms without basing it off the Broadway musical. And based on the reviews I have read about this movie, it seems like I'm in the minority of this because I loved it. Given that this is a conclusion to the story, I have more of a context and an appreciation for everything that has come before. This is a much darker half to Wicked than Part 1 was. Part 1 was essentially building the world. It gave us a very whimsical fantasy element to it, and the songs were catchier. So the first one definitely won on visuals alone and the musical aspect, but this is more about the story. This is concluding what has been set up in Part 1, and I was fully invested. When it comes to the characters, Cynthia Erivo once again is fantastic as Elphaba, and in my review for Part 1, I wondered, how do you go from somebody that I'm actively rooting for to one of the greatest villains in film history? And the answer is that you just make Wicked a revisionist retelling. And that's apparently the idea of the original book and the play, is that it's not supposed to be accurate to lining up with the Wizard of Oz. It's a revisionist retelling, so they have the freedom to do whatever they wanted. And with that mindset, it really worked out. Cynthia Erivo does a really good job with the song sequences, especially No Good Deed, which isn't on the same level as Defying Gravity, but she manages to perform the hell out of that sequence, and it's magnificent. However, Part 1 was more Elphaba's movie, and not that she's sidelined in this film at all, she's still important, but I feel like this half is more Glinda's story, and Ariana Grande is once again just as good as she was in Part 1, to the point where it's like, she's so good that she's irritating to watch. But I felt like there was a lot more to her character in this half, because she's essentially the person that knows what's happening in the world is wrong, but she just needs a push in order to actually be proactive in fighting against these oppressions. And her friendship with Elphaba really works. When you get to the For Good song, it's just so well done. I think it's as good as Defying Gravity in a more subtle manner. It got a real response out of me. Then as for Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero, in the first movie, I didn't really think much of him outside of being the good-looking prince. But in this movie, I get it. I get why he's in this story. And he's essentially the character that he's tasked with doing something that he knows is wrong, and eventually he makes a choice in what he effectively has to do. Well, I won't say much else beyond that, but this was the movie that made me understand why this character is a part of the story. Everything else that I really enjoyed in the first Wicked is still good in this movie. Like, the costumes still look incredible, the production design is once again outstanding. I mean, they filmed both these movies at the same time, so I would have been shocked if the quality of both the sets and costumes had just fallen completely. I really don't have any major issues with this movie. I guess the biggest one is that Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible is still really good, but I never quite understood her motivation on why she is making Elphaba out to be this villain. Because there are points in this movie where she just has full control over the wizard, and it seems like she's running the show, but you don't really get a sense of why. I got real strong Dick Cheney vibes from her, where it's like, yeah, this goofball may be the one who's in charge, but we know the one who's running things. The worst sequence in the movie for me has to be everything between Elphaba's sister Nessa Rose and the Munchkin Bach, who both went to Shiz University in the last film. I just found both these characters to be incredibly petty and spineless, and maybe that was supposed to be the point in the play, but I don't know. Like, these scenes just didn't really work. I just ended up disliking both these characters, where I really did enjoy them in the first one, so that was a letdown. One element of the movie that I think may be an issue with some is how it ends. It kind of has a cop-out feeling to it, which I initially felt when I first saw the movie. But considering the information that we're told in this movie, the way sequences play out, and the fact that this is supposed to be a revisionist retelling of these characters, the ending kind of makes sense when you really think about it. I could see why people would see it as a cop-out, but for me, having time to think about it, and especially after seeing the movie twice, I didn't have an issue with it. Before I give my rating for this movie, I want to talk about some of the criticisms that I've heard with this movie that kind of drive me nuts. Now, I understand that film is subjective. Everyone's going to have a different opinion on everything, and we should be thankful for that, because it would be boring if everybody had the same opinion on everything. But I honestly didn't expect the critical response for this movie to be as divisive as it is. As of recording this review, it has a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, all things considered, is a good rating. That basically means that 30% of critics didn't like the movie. I've read some reviews where they talked about how they just padded this movie out and it didn't feel like it warranted being two parts, which didn't really bother me, and I can honestly see that as a level-headed criticism, because maybe a Wicked adaptation could have worked as a 3.5-hour epic, but again, that didn't bother me. I feel like they did justify making this two parts. But then some of the criticisms I've heard are just flat out stupid. Some reviews have made this movie out to be one of the worst of the year. The same year that we got movies like The Woman in the Yard, Ice Cube's War of the Worlds, the Minecraft movie, Tron Ares, Shelby Oaks. Like, there is no way that Wicked for Good is among that discussion of worst movies of the year. It's not even the worst Jonathan Bailey movie that Universal released this year. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I've heard things like, oh, the sets look incredibly fake and unrealistic, and I'm thinking, that's not possible, because they shot both these movies back to back, so there's no way the Oscar-winning sets of the last movie could just suddenly have a downgrade in this one. I don't understand people sometimes. Whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. We may not agree on them, but it's better than trying to force somebody to like or dislike the things that we dislike or like. But for me, with Wicked for Good, I would give it the same rating that I gave the first movie. Worth seeing in your lifetime. Now, that's just me reviewing this movie on its own merits as a singular movie. But if I were to look at Wicked, like part one, and this as one big 4.5, 5 hour long movie, I would easily say get off your ass and go see it right now. Again, that's if you combine both parts. And I would go so far to say that these two parts make up one of the best movies of the decade. Just like I thought Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 were one of the best of the last decade. By themselves, Wicked might be on the lower end of one of my favorite movies of the decade, and For Good wouldn't even be there, but together, I feel confident in saying that. We'll see how the rest of the decade plays out in terms of movies and if Wicked actually stays in that topic. But yeah, I really enjoyed Wicked for good. Not as much as I did the first one, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. And there you go, that's my review for Wicked for Good. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching this review, and I want to give a special thank you to my subscribers and YouTube members right over here. You guys are the reason why this channel continues to grow every day, and if you want to help to financially support the channel, you can do so via YouTube memberships for as little as $1.99 a month. But until next time, I want to know what you guys think about Wicked for Good. If you've seen it, whatever your opinion is, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to find me elsewhere on the internet, you can find me on these social media platforms and my theme park and travel channel right here on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.